Good evening, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here. After the record fair at the weekend, I'm recording my videos a day late, but hopefully you'll enjoy the selection. This is the genre list. So we have hip hop, punk, funk, what do we call that? We got folk, metal, and jazz. And then a selection of really interesting soundtracks that you will not be expecting. I can promise you that. Where to start with this list? Because we've got Sly and the Family Stone, Sandy Denny, Betty Davis, Iron Maiden. I've decided to start here. This is Enter the Wu-Tang by the Wu-Tang Clan. This shadowy figure right here on the sleeve was not one of the 9 members of the Wu-Tang. This is the US first press, genuine US first press, not bootleg. There's a lot of bootlegs out there. It is still in the shrink wrap, and it is in immaculate condition. There's the label. So this is 1993. I suspect that if we were going back now and picking the most influential record released in 1993, I suspect that Enter the Wu-Tang would win, would top the list. This is a collective that absolutely roared out of Staten Island in the early 90s. Oh, absolutely wild collection of 9 MCs, all of which released solo albums after the success of Enter the Wu-Tang, which I think set a new template for what might happen and inspired Odd Future and a whole bunch of other collectives to do something similar. You know, you've got, who have you got? You've got Method Man, you've got RZA, you've got ODB, who's probably my favourite of the lot, Jizza, and I don't know. I mean, a legendary record. It is like a Martin Scorsese movie, but cut on wax. It is so vital and energetic and pounding and real. It's got this off-kilter production. It's smoky and grimy, yet it has some of the catchiest hip-hop tracks ever, like Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me. It is really special record, and so I've got a few copies of it, and this US first press just, I don't know, it's special. I think someone out there might absolutely love this thing. You know, why is it the most influential record of 93 and maybe even arguably the 90s? Obviously the music, the fashion, its impact on pop culture, its snippets of Japanese, kung fu mythology mixed into pounding rhythm tracks like Protect Your Neck. These tracks were in the underground clubs of Staten Island and New York before they ever made it to the radio. Rolling Stone and The Source and others have all ranked this in the top 10 albums in hip-hop history. I don't know. It's got this lo-fi production aesthetic that is, I think, partly why it's so timeless. It does not feel old. It's super great. And so, yeah, Enter the Wu-Tang. 36 Chambers by the Wu-Tang Clan. What a record to lead off. How do you follow that? I think the only way you follow that is by a record that I think set the same standard this time in the 60s. I'm talking about the record that arguably began funk. This is Stand by Sly and the Family Stone. This is the US first press in fantastic condition on the yellow Epic label. This vinyl weighs a ton. It's heavy, it's vital. Again, an amazing record. Now we know Sly Stone passed away week before last, and so I've been thinking about which record to put on the list off the back of that news, and eventually I settled on Stand because I think it's their best. I know that there are arguments for Fresh and there are arguments for There's a Rat Going On, but Fresh is like just over 30 minutes of the most enervating and infectious grooves, gospel-based grooves, soul, funk, political commentary, just exhortations to get up and dance, feel good mixed with thoughtfulness. It's absolutely set the scene for funk, for Parliament, for Funkadelic, leading the way to Prince, and I don't know. I think it's a truly special record, and I was making some notes. I mean, Everyday People was the band's first US number one hit, and is still a civil rights anthem to this day. I don't know. I think they went to Woodstock shortly after this record was released and just blew the house off the place. You can make it if you try. 15 minutes of Sex Machine. I Want to Take You Higher. Sing a Simple Song. And some very controversial songs as well, with language that my family find a challenge, but that I think says a lot about the time. And so this is the back of the first press, by the way. There's some listening notes, and it's called The Family, of course, The Family Stone. Sly Stone, the Joneses are stoned. Freddie Stone, life, it melts your mind. Greg Errico, love to all the striped people on Neptune, love and peace. Jerry Martini, pigs will be pigs. Cynthia Robinson, what a voice she has, by the way. It's crazy background vocals. The Truth is Best. Larry Graham, actually I'm innocent until proven guilty. No other musicians are used. There's a podcast I listened to called Sound Opinions, and they did an interview with Cynthia and who was it? Cynthia and I think maybe Cynthia and Larry a few years back, and it's absolutely amazing. Just cracking record. There you have Sly and the Family Stone. I have a couple of interesting records with their history and folk, but are something a little bit different. So Fairport Convention, a hugely influential band that came out of the UK in the late 60s, and two stars from the band went off to have interesting solo careers. One being Sandy Denny, who then also appeared on Led Zeppelin 4, and Richard Thompson and his wife Linda, who released a series of fantastic records, and then all the way through to Richard Thompson releasing solo records even last year. I've got two to show you here that I really love, that I think are really worth your time. The first is Like an Old-Fashioned Waltz by Sandy Denny. This is the US first press from 1974. I just ask you to listen to the first two songs, solo and the title track, Like an Old-Fashioned Waltz. If they don't melt your heart, then this record is not for you, and it's never going to work. I find those songs just so utterly beautiful. The fact that the record goes on and maintains that quality is pretty great, but man oh man, what a voice, what songs. And Sandy plays and sings, Pat Donaldson A whole Richard Thompson also appears on this record, and I'll talk more about him in a second. Orchestral arrangements by Harry Robinson with whispering brass by Bob Leaper. What a wonderful way to describe the background music on this record. It's so understated and perfect. Like an old-fashioned waltz. Look at that sleeve as well. The US First Press by Sandy Denny. And I mentioned Richard and Linda Thompson. They went on to make a series of records culminating in this, which topped many critics' lists of the best album of 1982 and has appeared on a lot of lists of the best albums of the 80s. This is Shoot Out the Lights by Richard and Linda Thompson, and this is the Japanese First Press. Now, here you have an album that's taut. There's not a single note or exhortation that is out of place. This is crafted. It's tight. His guitar playing, Richard Thompson's guitar playing, is never indulgent. It's always on point. He's a blistering player. There are some solos here that you go, oh, wow. You know, it's often cited as one of the greatest breakup albums of all time. I suppose, you know, you've got Rumours and it's on this tier, but Shoot Out the Lights is there. It's so tight. It's over time. It's just grown in stature. It doesn't sound like an 80s record. It is a generational songwriter and his muse and his guitar doing something great. And by the way, that I don't want to underplay Linda Thompson, because there is a debate. You will find people say, you know, I prefer Sandy Denny's voice to Linda Thompson. You'll find some people say, no, I prefer Linda Thompson's voice. That's to give you an idea of just how great she is as a singer as well. Richard Thompson, vocal, lead guitar, accordion, and dulcimer. Linda Thompson, vocals. Look, I don't know. Give those two records a listen. They're not, you know, I got some Iron Maiden coming up later. They're not Iron Maiden, but they are special. And first time. In fact, all of the records so far have first time on a shortcuts list. Shout Out the Lights by the amazing Richard and Linda Thompson. You all know already how much I love Betty Davis. So this is the incomparable debut album by Betty Davis from 1973. Trailblazing artist, one of my all-time favourites in terms of sexuality, in terms of confidence, in mixture of funk, psychedelia and rock. You know, influenced Miles Davis, created a movement. It didn't happen for her. She is not as famous as she should have been, but she released 3 records. This, They Say I'm Different, and Nasty Gal, which are as good a series of 3 records as any artist released in the 70s. I'll put those up against anyone. I love them. She took some influence from Sly and the Family Stone for sure. Oh my gosh. And the Tower of Power. If I'm in luck, I might get picked up. It's very raw. A lot of critics just couldn't deal with it at the time. They were baffled by how aggressive her persona was. But there was an underground scene that just absolutely was floored by her. I think she's awesome. Love her. I know some of you have discovered Betty Davis through my adoration of her, and I hope someone else out there finds her off the back of tonight, because it's so great. That album, maybe the first time you listen to it, you'll go, she can't sing. Oh my god, she can. It's just that she's different, and I love it. Alright, talking about singers who created a complete meltdown in the world when they did their thing, I am talking about Who Can Guess the Sleeve. There's the back. Does anyone want to guess what the record is? It is The Number of the Beast, Iron Maiden. This is the Japanese first press of The Number of the Beast. Look, with Obi and everything, this record goes for stupid money. It doesn't have an Obi, but the vinyl is wonderful, and that's part of what is the mystique of Japanese Iron Maiden records. They sound so punky and direct and sharp, and they just sound right. I mean, the legacy of The Number of the Beast is just ironclad. What's amazing about Iron Maiden is this record, classic as it is, it didn't really define them. It maybe defined what, the new wave of British heavy metal was going to be. Dark, grandiose, fast, mythology in there with Eddie and things. There was a playfulness too, of course. It's just a lot of fun. And Bruce Dickinson on vocals, his first appearance with the band. Legacy's complete. The Number of the Beast is 666. I gotta call out Run to the Hills. Oh gosh, what a track! Now, the antithesis of Iron Maiden when it comes to guitar music has to be this band, and I am going to first time appearance on the list as well. This is the double album It's Alive by the Ramones. So this is 28 songs. It's a double album, so probably 55 minutes. There's no ballads. There's no banter. There's no crowd chants. There's no Freddie Mercury going, oh. All you get is the Ramones playing classic after classic, where most of them are 2 minutes, and they are in and out before you've even realised what's happening. From Queens, New York, there's a bit of a New York thing going on with the Wu-Tang. Short, loud. This was after they'd released 4 albums, and they were doing really well in the UK. But in the US, they hadn't really caught on the way they caught on in the UK. And so this was recorded in London's Rainbow Theatre. You can see it here. Recorded live in the Rainbow Theatre, London, New Year's Eve, 1977. 4 albums down by New Year's Eve, 1977. I love the gatefold as well. Look at this. How fabulous is that? Yabba dabba, gabba gabba hey. It's just wonderful. Masterclass in velocity, volume, hookiness. Clearly there is lots of reasons why people compared them to the Beach Boys. I think one of the greatest live albums ever. You tell me what you think. Alright, change of tune. From one of the greatest live albums of all time to one of the greatest jazz 12-inch kind of 45 RPM classics. This is Alison's Uncle by Cannonball Adderley, Miles Davis, Hank Jones, Sam Jones and Art Blakey. Cannonball Adderley, one of the great saxophonists of the hard bop era, warm, soulful. You've probably heard of Miles Davis. You've probably heard of Art Blakey. What you get here is tracks from the same sessions that produced Something Else, which is often right at the top of the list of the greatest jazz albums of all time. It's really beautiful. The Japanese press is great. The 45 RPM surface area, that the way that you can fit so much into that vinyl makes it sound so great. I love the young Miles Davis on these recordings. It wasn't released, I think it was like 15 years after it was recorded, maybe more, before it was ever released. It's great. Alison's Uncle, Cannonball Leaves, 45 RPM Cannonball Alley. Great record. Right, now I have a few to go before I go show this little special bundle. This is another US first press, and I love this sleeve. You all know how much I love Stax. So this is a US pressing from 1969 on that wonderful hard cardboard. Now the only thing you'll see is a little puncture hole here, but this is Eddie Floyd. You've got to have Eddie. Look at that sleeve. What is that? That is so cool. That's all. It's not unusual. Proud Mary Seagull. Now this features the in-house band from Stax, which is Booker T and the MGs, and the Memphis Horns. So you've got Isaac Hayes, you've got Steve Cropper, you've got all the legends from the US at that time who lent themselves to the revered Stax label. Eddie Floyd, classic late 60s Stax soul. Right, one more jazz album two more jazz albums. I have something that I've been enjoying for a really long time, and I just wonder if anyone else loves this record as much as I do. This is Alfie by Sonny Rollins. Now this is the Japanese gatefold edition that's got some really great notes about Sonny Rollins and about the recording of the record. It's on Impulse with the label. So this is from 1981. Now, Sonny Rollins was the saxophone colossus, and this is the record that provided the soundtrack to the Michael Caine movie that was released at the time, and it is really characterful and it's really expressive, and unlike a lot of kind of jazz soundtracks from that time, which were really kind of background music, this is very bold, very expressive, full of mood. I love it. I think it's a really cool record. I'm pretty sure Kenny Burrell plays on this too. Orchestra conducted by Oliver Nelson. I'm gonna have to confirm, but I'm pretty sure Kenny Burrell plays guitar on there. Wonderful thing. One more jazz record to go, and again, this is new for the list. So I asked the folks in Shinjuku to send me their favorite Sadio Watanabe record, because I'd had some of his records on previous lists earlier this year, and the reviews have been so good that I said, well, make me a recommendation, because I don't really know much about him at all. And this is what they sent me. It's called Fill Up the Night by Sadio Watanabe. It's a Japanese first press with Obi, and it is absolutely perfect. So I actually took some of the notes here that they said to me, that's in the little notes that are on the record that were written. So they described it as slick and melodic, and it has a whole bunch of American jazz fusion musicians who played. So I'm just going to read some of these out. Steve Gadd on drums, Eric Gale on guitar. So you have some of the kind of the premier US talent from the time playing with Sadio Watanabe, with arrangements done by Lee Ritenour and Dave Grusin. So it's like all of these incredible names in the mix. As part of what makes this record so appealing is its fantastic recording quality. In the notes, the folks in Shinjuku actually refer to it as kind of Steely Dan quality. And there was one other note that they wrote. I just want to make sure I got it right. This photograph of Sadio Watanabe was actually taken in Shinjuku, which they note in the notes as well. So there you go. Sadio Watanabe, Fill Up the Night. All right, so before we sign off, I'm just going to quickly show you these because they're really interesting items. So a collection that I got from the UK included a whole bunch of records from the 60s that are what I can only call audiophile recordings of the soundtracks of movies from the 60s. So these are specifically released on really high quality vinyl. They're all unplayed. They were part of a collection that came from the BBC. They're all kind of these MGM amazing sleeves, amazing everything. They were not expensive, so these are like $10 each. But I'm just going to quickly show you. So there's Hit the Deck. There's Rosemary. Now a lot of these have got, you know, Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra and various artists playing on them. This one's got Julie Andrews. It's called Darling Lily. Again, all from the same 60s audiophile pressings. This one's also Julie Andrews. This movie's called Star. Music conducted and arranged by Lenny Hayton. I suppose if some of you are really into your exotica and 60s soundtracks, and look at this, Frank Sinatra, Catherine Grayson and Gene Kelly, Anchors Away. There they are on the back. And then finally Shirley MacLaine and Frank Sinatra in the Cole Porter produced soundtrack of Cole Porter's Can Can. As I said, very cool things indeed. So we've gone from the Wu-Tang to Sly to Iron Maiden via Sandy Denny and Betty Davis, and arrived at Frank Sinatra and Shirley MacLaine and Cole Porter doing the Can Can. That's about as perfect a video as I've ever done. Please leave a comment. Let me know if there's anything you find interesting. If you think these videos are a waste of time, please let me know. I don't want to waste my time. And if you would like to be part of my mailing list to buy these records, then drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Bye.